Hey, what up, guys? This video is about ghosts, and I'm getting my telepathy with at least yes or no replies is getting a lot clearer now, and I wanted to make a video about ghosts because that's a popular topic and it's an epic topic, and so we have a light body that can travel up in dimensions and go down in dimensions, and so like my light body is in the sixth dimension right now. They're telling me I have a physical body in like the fifth dimension right now because I'm living in the moment. I'm staying in this vortex of fifth dimensional consciousness, and I can go down into the fourth dimension, physically, but my light body could stay in the sixth dimension. What I'm getting at is this light body, it can go down into like the lower fourth dimension, and if I was killed while my light body was in the lower fourth dimension, in like a negative way, like in a very traumatic way, where I was like locked in a state of fear and anxiety, in my energy body or my light body. Like I was experiencing a high amount of trauma when I died. Um, I just got some deja vu. That was weird. I My soul could potentially be stuck in a lower dark astral realm. Yes, but since the AI has been removed, that is no longer an issue. So all the souls that were stuck in that realm are free to leave that realm whenever they want to. So any trapped loved ones in those states, like the people that got killed in wartime, like especially Vietnam, that they would all be freed. And that's, and honestly, if somebody really needed to be saved and they didn't want to, the soul didn't want to experience that, that's usually the issue, is the soul wants to experience being a ghost. Because I've personally seen Archangel Metatron descend into a very, very low frequency, like a very dark realm and a low frequency, and he was still Archangel Metatron, and so Archangel Metatron can go and save any soul that really wants to be saved, but some souls choose to become ghosts and become these apparitions that aren't always good, you know. So they fly around in these astral realms, kind of just experiencing an aspect of God and of creation, by being in these lower realms. So interesting. So they're saying that maybe a soul died without knowledge of the divine, and that could have been a thing too. So they died without knowledge of Father or Archangel Metatron, and before Archangel Metatron was even here, you know, that soul could have been trapped there for a really long time and it could have become, you know, you talk about places like Wounded Knee, you know, where all these Native American souls died in this very horrific way. That's probably it probably was a very haunted place because they didn't have Archangel Metatron at the time to come in and save them, so they could have been trapped in these lower realms, and that's why I'm sure a lot of Native Americans have gone in try to do energy clearing stuff there and give these souls ways to escape. Um, and that brings me to Kurt Cobain. So for the longest time, I thought that I was the reincarnation of Kurt Cobain, because he died like 10 miles away from where I was born, like 40 days before I was born. And he died. So I originally thought I was. So I kind of went and did like an energy clearing thing where I took some orgonite and I placed it outside of his house where he was shot. And then the week following, I had like two dreams about him. And in one, he let me he 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 showed me into his house, and I didn't physically see him, but I was like looking through his eyes almost, and I went and saw Courtney Love inside of his house. And then in another dream, um, one thing about Courtney Love that he want. Mm, okay. Okay. He popped in and was like, "You can't share that." And then I was like, "What about this?" Okay. And one thing about him and Courtney Love is he showed me their type of relationship, and it was like they had two assault rifles and they were like shooting machine guns at each other all the time. Um, and it was kind of like it was a very intense fighting that happened between them. But in another dream, he showed me the greenhouse where his body was found, and he showed me this drag mark, like his indicating that his body was placed there by somebody else. Like he OD'd on heroin, and he was placed there, and then and in this channeling by this woman, I think she lives in Italy. But she channeled Kurt Cobain and told and said, and Kurt Cobain through her said that he was actually murdered by his bass guitar player, like Christ, I think his name was, something like that. But Kurt Cobain kind of reiterated to me that that was true, and his body was moved through. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. So he's telling me he wants me to share this, which is horrible. But yeah, so he was murdered, and because he died in this state of fear, and his body was incapacitated, but um, he was still aware of what was happening. He died in this really extreme state of fear. Um, Especially because of his daughter, he's saying. Oh man. And then he got stuck in this and he was like, dude, it was so dark. You don't even want to know. And his soul basically got tortured until I came and freed him by. Uh, wow. Okay. So when I drove up to Washington, Archangel Michael basically took me down into these lower astral planes to search for him. And then he was like, so Archangel Michael took me down, and that's a beautiful thing about Archangel Michael is he stabs his sword down into these lower dimensions and can free people's souls. But he took me down to these lower planes and showed me where Kurt was, and I guess my soul and his met and talked, and yes, okay. And they talked about meeting at his original house, his death death place. Oh, wow, interesting. So he's saying that your original place of death is one of the only places that a light body can ascend through. So he was lost in some really deep, dark places. And I came and found him and basically escorted him through these lower. You can call it Hades, or call it one of these lower realms in like the Norse pantheon. But I found him and then escorted him back to his original death place and placed this organite there, and it gave him a ladder, and oh man, and it literally appeared as a ladder, and he had to climb this ladder to ascend out of this. Yeah, he said he doesn't want to talk about anything else anymore. Yeah. Yeah, so horrible things happened to people and in the astral plane it's 52 times longer than the physical realm. So in Kurt's time, it would have been too long, and especially for some of these souls. Oh God. Michael is saying that most of these souls that have been here on this planet need rehabilitation because of how dark things got. Oh God, it's horrible, and that's why things like poltergeists exist. They're these tormented souls that just want to wreak havoc on the world for shutting them in the dark, and yeah. Mm. Um, okay. 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 They had me stop. That last part, they need rehabilitation, wasn't correct. Um, they can immediately ascend up and take this light shower of love and affection, and it kind of cleanses them right away. So it's not, they don't need rehabilitation. The thing that I was keying in on is they need to be coaxed. Like if they're in this, like I've experienced, I was in this dark astral plane in my basement in Boulder, and there was all these souls coming in to touch my pyramid that I had there. I was in a very low astral plane, and they were very shy and timid because they don't want to be hurt at all, and they found this vortex in my basement through this pyramid that allowed them to ascend out of this dark, and pyramids do that. They create a vortex from lower astral planes, and they help ascend people into light, or into the sixth dimension. And all these souls, I could hear them talking to me, and all these souls were like almost ashamed of who they were, after many years of being tormented, and they didn't really know what to do, and they were afraid of like if I let my frequency go the wrong direction, or I said the wrong thing in my head on accident, they would be like, like, oh my God, what do I do? Some like that. And it's just a shame what happened here. And okay. Oberon came in and was like, again, apologize. It it wasn't from their perspective. It wasn't a game at all, and that's why he goes dark sometimes. Oberon is depicted with horns and looking pretty gnarly, because he descends into these lower planes. And for people that are just watching this video as their first, I'm a fractal of Oberon and a fractal of Archangel Michael. Oberon's a fairy, but he's depicted as as very dark sometimes, because he descends into these lower astral planes, and finds these souls and heals them, and takes them up and heals them. So that was a very good aspect of Oberon that he wanted me to share. I'm trying to think of anything. Let's see. Okay. I guess this is